Texas is a status. That's for sure.
Coaches, if you'll stay there and get your picture put on Twitter, send it to Tom Fox. Louisiana 4, good.
He's with Westlake.
Okay. I'll send it to the Lopez. Lopez be good. Oh, all right, here we go. All right.
All right, we are set to begin quiz number 56 on our beginner division matrix. This is our round one, second semifinal. This quiz between North Texas 2 and Louisiana 4. This is the first opportunity I've had to see you guys quiz, so I look forward to it. Quizzers ready? Question number 1 is a quotation completion question for 10 points. Question: who's seeing?
Red, 1.
Interruption.
Who seeing Peter and John about to go into the temple asked an alms?
That is correct. Question 2 for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 9 verse 15 mentions the...
Red, 2.
Interruption.
The children of where? The children of Israel?
That is correct. Question 3 for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 8 verse 26 says, who spake?
Red, 1.
Interruption.
Who spake unto Philip, the angel of the Lord?
That is correct. Question 4 for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 2 verse 2 speaks of a rushing...
Red, 2.
Interruption.
Mighty what? A rushing mighty wind?
That is correct. Question 5 for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 10 verse 43 refers to
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Shall receive what? Remission of sins?
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread in North Texas without interruption for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 10 verse 43 refers to remissions of what?
Red, 1.
Remission of sins?
That is correct. Question number 6 for 10 points. Question: Acts chapter 1 verse 4 says, wait for...
Red, 2.
Interruption.
Wait for what? Wait for the promise of the Father?
That is correct.
Time out.
Timeout, Louisiana, 60 seconds. Time is called. We are ready for question number 7. It is a quotation question for 20 points. Question. Quote Acts chapter 4.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Verse 7. And one day I said to them, I'm going to say, about power of our name have you done this?
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread in North Texas without interruption. It's a quotation question for 20 points. Question. Quote Acts chapter 4, verse 1.
Red 1.
And as they spake unto the people, the priests and the captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them.
Time.
That is incorrect. Question number 8 is a two-part question for 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 4 verse 3 states they laid what?
Red 2.
Interruption.
On them. And put them where? They laid hands on them and put them in hold until the next day, for it was now eventide.
That is correct. Question number 9 for 20 points. Question. That word, according to Acts,
Red 1.
Interruption.
According to Acts chapter 10, verse 37,
Time.
that is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to Louisiana without interruption for 20 points. Question. That word, according to Acts chapter 10, verse 37, began from Galilee after what?
Yellow 1.
that word I say in the voice was published out of Judea and began from Galilee after the baptism which John preached.
Time.
That is incorrect. Question number 10 is a two-part question for 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 4 verse 8 says, "Ye rulers of whom?"
Red, 2.
Interruption.
And elders of him, you rulers of the people and elders of Israel.
That is correct. Question number 11 is a quotation completion question for 20 points. Question. Then the high...
Yellow, 2.
And the high
Interruption.
priest rose up, and all they that were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees, and were filled with indignation.
Time.
That is correct. We have contest North Texas, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. Timeout, North Texas, 60 seconds.
Here, wake up. Time is gone. We are ready for
Question number 12 for 20 points question. According to Acts chapter 5 verse 20, go do...
Yellow, 1.
Interruption.
What? Go stand around and tell about teaching the people?
Time.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to North Texas without interruption for 20 points question. According to Acts chapter 5 verse 20, go do what?
Red, 2.
Go stand and speak in the temple to the people all the words of this life.
That is correct. That is 6 correct for Jude. Great job. Timeout, North Texas, 60 seconds.
Love it.
Time is called. Question number 13 is a 3-part question for 30 points question. Acts chapter 8 verse 12 says, when they believed...
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Who? Preaching what? Pertaining to where? Who? Preaching the things concerning the kingdom of God in the name of Jesus Christ.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to North Texas without interruption. It's a 3-part question for 30 points question. Acts chapter 8 verse 12 says, when they believed who, preaching what, they were what?
Red, 1.
But when they believed Philip preaching the things concerning the kingdom of God in the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women.
That is correct. Question number 14 is a cross-reference quotation question for 30 points question. Quote Acts chapter 3 verses 4.
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
And 5. And Peter, fastening his eyes upon him, John said, look on us. And he gave heed unto them, expecting to receive something of them.
That is correct. Question number 15 is a 3-part question for 30 points question. Acts chapter 10 verse 17 states, had made what?
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to North Texas without interruption. It's a three-part question for 30 points. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 17 states, had made what, for what, and stood where?
Red 1.
Had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate.
That is correct. And this quiz is closed. You may relax. Let's get ready to
Had 63 viewers. Was that Tom Foster's church?
But I'm not sure.
Results of that last quiz are as follows. North Texas 2 was the first place team with 180 points, and we have a medal ceremony. The second highest scoring quizzer with 70 points was Mia Lamuda, and the highest scoring quizzer with 100 points was Jude Lamuda. We have a bronze quiz. All right, you guys are going to be here for a few minutes, so don't get in a hurry. Great job. There's the ribbon. All right, let's do bronze medals first.
Yes.
Great work, guys. Great work.
Yes.
All right, we are calling Colorado 1 in the junior division to the red buzzer and Louisiana 1 to the yellow.
Babe, yes. Have you seen it? She seen it.
coaches, if you stand out, you guys can put it in. Take the last minute away to take it home, we'll put you on Twitter. We'll see you in a matter of seconds. It's gonna be a better shot. You make it look better now.
All right. Congratulations, Colorado and Louisiana. Doing very well. Let's do a buzzer check.
Red, 3.
Good job. This quiz is open. Question 1 is worth 10 points. Question, who, according to Acts chapter 3, verse 1?
Yellow, 1.
Interruption.
3 verse 1. Went up together into the temple, Peter and John.
That is correct. Question 2 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 2, verse 30 says, there.
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Therefore being what? A prophet?
That is correct. All right. Question 3 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 17, verse 28 mentions.
Red, 2.
Interruption.
You're on what? Poets?
That is correct. Question 4 is a quotation question worth 10 points. Question, quote Acts chapter 2, verse 8.
Red, 1.
8. And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born?
Time.
That is incorrect. Question 5 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 2, verse 31 says, neither.
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Neither what did see corruption? His flesh?
That is correct. Question 6 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 19, verse 10 says this.
Red, 1.
Interruption.
The space of how long? 2 years.
That is correct. Question 7 is worth 20 points. Question, Acts chapter 2, verse 40 records.
Red, 2.
Interruption.
With many other words did he testify and exhort, saying what? Save yourselves from this untoward generation?
That is correct. Question 8 is a two-part question worth 20 points. Question, Acts chapter 1, verse 13 mentions
Red, 2.
Interruption.
Judas. What of who? Judas, the brother of James?
That is incorrect. And this interrupted two-part question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question, Acts chapter 1, verse 13 mentions James, the son of whom, and Judas, the brother of whom.
Yellow, 1.
James the son of Alphaeus, and Judas the brother of James.
That is correct. Question 9 is a quotation question worth 20 points. Question, quote Acts chapter 10, verse...
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Verse 34.
Then Peter opened his mouth and said, "Of a truth I perceive that God is no respecter of persons."
That is incorrect. And this interrupted quotation question will be reread to Colorado 1 without interruption. Question. Quote Acts chapter 10, verse 3.
Read 3.
He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming unto him and saying unto him, Cornelius.
That is correct. Question 10 is worth 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 16, verse 10 says,
Read 2.
Interruption.
After he had seen the vision, immediately we did what? Endeavored to go into Macedonia.
That is incorrect. And this interrupted question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question. Acts chapter 16, verse 10 says, assuredly gathering that the Lord had called us. Why?
Yellow 1.
For to preach the gospel to them.
That is correct. Have a timeout. Colorado 1, 60 seconds.
Yes.
All right, time has been called. Question 11 is a two-part question worth 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 2, verse 26 mentions...
Read 2.
Interruption.
My soul, in what? Neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see what? My soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption.
That is incorrect. And this interrupted two-part question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question. Acts chapter 2, verse 26 mentions, my, how many things, and what are these things?
Yellow 2.
My heart, my tongue, my flesh, no 3.
That is correct.
Test.
We have a contest. Colorado 1, 60 seconds.
No.
Time.
This contest is denied. Question 12 is worth 20 points. Question, Athens.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Locate the universal study that contains this information. Acts chapter 17, verse 22.
That is correct. Have a timeout. Colorado, 60 seconds. Time has been called. Question 13 is a three-part question worth 30 points. Question, Acts chapter 12 verse 5 states,
Red 2.
Interruption.
Prayer was made without what, of what, unto who? Prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God.
That is correct. Question 14 is a quotation question worth 30 points. Question, quote Acts chapter 8 verse 6.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Verse 7. For unclean spirits, crying with loud voice, came out of many that were possessed with them, and many taken with palsies, and that were lame were healed.
That is correct.
Contest.
We have a contest. Colorado 1, 60 seconds. This contest is withdrawn, and we have a timeout. Louisiana 1, 60 seconds.
That was a call. You're doing a great job, Dad. Where's Brian? There she is.
Time has been called. Question 15 is a cross-reference question worth 30 points. Question, according to Acts chapter 5, verses 22 and 23, when the officers came and found them not in the prison, they returned and told, saying what?
Red 2.
The prison truly found me shut without safety, and the keepers standing without before the doors. But when we had opened, we found no man within.
That is correct. And this quiz is closed. Let's give those people a hand. the second place team was Colorado 1. The winning team was Louisiana 1. Our second highest scoring individual with 60 points was Raymond. Give Raymond a hand. And our highest scoring individual receiving a silver medal and 80 points is Silas. Give Silas a hand. And our Louisiana 1 team has bronze.
Then there were two. Congratulations to Indiana 1 and North Texas 2 for making it to the finals of round 1 for the beginner division. And let's give both of these teams a round of applause. This is quiz number 57, and let's have a buzzer check.
Yellow 2. Red 2.
And we are set to begin. This quiz is now in session. Question number 1. We have a medal ceremony to begin this quiz. All right, question number 1. For 10 points question. Acts chapter 5 verse 17 refers to the...
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
The sect of what? The sect of the Sadducees?
That is correct. Question 2 for 10 points. Question. Acts chapter 2 verse 29 speaks of...
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
What is with us and to this day his sepulcher?
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to Indiana without interruption for 10 points. Question. Acts chapter 2 verse 29 speaks of the patriarch whom?
Red 3.
David.
That is correct. Question 3 for 10 points. Question. Locate this verse. And laid.
Yellow 2,
Interruption.
and laid their hands on them and put them in hold until the next day, for it was now eventide. Acts chapter 4, verse 3.
That is incorrect. And this question was interrupted. It will be reread to Indiana without interruption for 10 points. Question. Locate this verse. And laid their hands on the apostles and put them in the common prison.
Red 2,
Acts chapter 5, verse 18.
That is correct. Question number 4 for 10 points. Question. Acts chapter 2 verse 47 refers to such.
Yellow 2,
Interruption.
Such as what? Such as should be saved.
That is correct. Question number 5 for 10 points. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 7 mentions 2 of.
Yellow 1,
Interruption.
Two of what? Two of his household servants?
That is correct. Question 6 for 10 points. Question. Acts chapter 9 verse 3 refers to what from.
Red 2,
Interruption.
What from heaven? A light from heaven?
That is correct. Question number 7 is a 2-part question for 20 points. Question. What, according to Acts chapter 2 verse 26, shall rest.
Red 1,
Interruption.
Shall rest in what? My flesh? Shall rest in. Oop.
That is correct. Question number 8 for 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 5 verse 26 records brought them.
Yellow 2,
Interruption.
Brought them how? Brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should have been stoned.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to Indiana without interruption for 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 5 verse 26 records brought them without violence. Why?
Red 1,
For they feared the people, lest they should have been stoned.
That is correct. Question number 9 for 20 points. Question. Locate this verse. Then.
Red 1,
Interruption.
Then the high priest rose up, and all they that were with him, which is the sect of the Sadducees, and were filled with indignation. Acts chapter 5, verse 17.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread in North Texas without interruption for 20 points. Question. Locate this verse. Then Peter, filled with the Holy Ghost, said unto them, Ye rulers of the people and elders of Israel.
Yellow 2,
Acts chapter 4, verse 8.
That is correct. Timeout, North Texas, 60 seconds.
Time.
Time is called and we are ready for question number 10. For 20 points, question. Acts chapter 2 verse 30 refers to being a...
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Being a prophet and knowing what? That God had sworn with an oath to him that of the fruit of his loins according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne.
That is correct. Question number 11 is a two-part question for 20 points. Question. According to Acts chapter 1 verse 4, commanded...
Red 1.
Interruption.
Commanded them that they should not do what? But wait for what? Commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father.
That is correct. Contest North Texas, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. Question number 12. For 20 points, question. Locate this verse. On the mark.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh into the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. Acts chapter 10 verse 9.
Time.
That is correct. Contest Indiana, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. Question number 13 is a three-part question for 30 points. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 38 states, "When about doing what?"
Red, 1.
Interruption.
When about doing what? And healing who that were oppressed of who? And what about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil?
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread without interruption to North Texas. It's a three-part question for 30 points. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 38 states, "When about doing what and healing whom, for who was with him?"
Yellow, 1.
Doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for God was with him.
Time.
That is correct. Timeout, Indiana, 60 seconds.
That was question 13. So is it?
Time is called and we are ready for question number 14. It is a cross-reference quotation question for 30 points. Question. Quote Acts chapter 9 verses 20.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
And 21. Where he preached Christ in the synagogues that he is the Son of God, what have Bible turned on base and said, "Is not this he that destroyed them which called in this name of Jerusalem, and you made their
Time.
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to Indiana without interruption. It's a cross-reference quotation question for 30 points. Question. Quote Acts chapter 9 verses 24 and 25.
Red 1.
But their laying await was known of Saul, and they watched the gates day and night to kill him. Then the disciples took him by night and let him down by the wall in a basket.
That is correct. Contest North Texas, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. Timeout, Indiana, 60 seconds. Time is called and we are ready for question number 15. It is a three-part question for 30 points. Question. Acts chapter 9 verse 21 asks, is not this he?
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
that did what? Was called on what? Where? Is not this he that destroyed them which called on his name in Jerusalem and came hither for that intent, that he might bring them back unto the chief priests?
That is incorrect. This question was interrupted. It will be reread to Indiana without interruption. It's a three-part question for 30 points. Question. Acts chapter 9, verse 21 asks, is not this he that destroyed whom, and came hither for what, that he might do what?
Red, 1.
But all that heard him were amazed, and said, is not this he that destroyed them which called on this name in Jerusalem, and came hither for that intent, that he might bring them bound unto the chief priests?
Time.
That is correct. Contest North Texas, 60 seconds. And that is a 5-point foul on North Texas. You've already had 2 denied contests, so. And this quiz is closed. Okay, relax. Let's give both teams a hand.
We're up to 84.
And the results of that last quiz, a great one coming down to the last question. Indiana won, was the first place team with 135 points. Second highest scoring quizzers with 35 points each, Nia Labuda and Jude Labuda. We have a medal ceremony. The highest scoring quizzer with 95 points was Andrew Starkman.
Oh, it's in the very beginning that they were just going
Is this in your way if I sit here?
Nope.
Steven.
Nope, you're good.
Go Texas.
The last time this one was my two favorite Disney.
All right. Congratulations again on Texas 4 and Louisiana. The finals of round 1. Job well done. Let's do a buzzer check.
Red, 2.
All right. This quiz is open. Question 1 is worth 10 points. Question, locate this verse. But
Yellow, 1.
Interruption.
But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, "Do us no harm, for we are all here." Acts chapter 16, verse 28.
Time.
is correct. Question 2 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 2 verse 13 mentions
Red 2.
Interruption.
Isn't that our what? Full new line?
that is incorrect. And this interrupted question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question, Acts chapter 2 verse 13 mentions who mocking?
Yellow 2.
Others.
That is correct. Question 3 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 2 verse 10 mentions the
Red 3.
Interruption.
Parts of where? Libya?
Time.
incorrect, and this interrupted question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question, Acts chapter 2 verse 10 mentions the strangers of where?
Yellow 1.
Rome?
That is correct. Have a contest, Texas 4, 60 seconds. This contest is withdrawn. Question 4 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 8 verse 31 says,
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Desire new. Philip.
That is correct. Question 5 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 3 verse 4 mentions that.
Red 3.
Interruption.
Fastening what? His eyes?
That is correct. Question 6 is worth 10 points. Question, Acts chapter 17 verse 23 mentions.
Red 2.
Interruption.
As I passed by and beheld what? Your devotions?
That is incorrect. And this interrupted question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question, Acts chapter 17 verse 23 mentions the unknown what?
Yellow 1.
God?
That is correct. We have a contest. Texas 4, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. Question 7 is worth 20 points. Question, Acts chapter 16, verse 30 states,
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
You brought them out and said what? Sirs, what must I do to be saved?
that is correct. We have a contest. Texas 4, 60 seconds. This contest is withdrawn.
Timeout.
We have a timeout. Texas 4, 60 seconds. Question 8 is a quotation question worth 20 points. Question, quote Acts chapter 4, verse 2.
Red 1.
Interruption.
Verse 12, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved.
That is correct. All right, we're ready for question 9. It is a two-part question worth 20 points. Question, Acts chapter 20, verse 12 says they...
Red 3.
Interruption.
Brought who alive? And we're not what? They brought the young man alive, we're not too late to comfort him?
That is Incorrect. And this interrupted two-part question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question. Acts chapter 20 verse 12 says they brought who, how?
Yellow, 2.
The young man alive.
That is correct. Question 10 is worth 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 17 verse 24 speaks.
Yellow, 2.
Interruption.
Speaks of. God that made what? The world and all things therein.
That is incorrect. And this interrupted question will be reread to Texas 4 without interruption. Question. Acts chapter 17 verse 24 speaks of seeing what?
Red, 3.
That he is Lord of heaven and earth.
That is correct. Question 11 is a quotation completion question worth 20 points. Question. This
Red, 3.
Interruption.
Time.
That is incorrect. And this interrupted quotation completion question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question. This is the stone which was.
Yellow, 1.
This is the stone which was set at naught of you builders, which has become the head of the corner.
That is correct. Have a timeout. Texas 4, 60 seconds. All right. Time has been called. Question 12 is a two-part question worth 20 points. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 42 states to...
Red, 3.
Interruption.
The apostles, what? Hamlet? They continue steadfast in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship.
That is
Time.
This interrupted two-part question will be reread to Louisiana 1 without interruption. Question. Acts chapter 10 verse 42 states to preach unto whom and to testify what?
Yellow, 1.
To preach unto the people and to testify that it was he which was ordained of God to be the judge of living and dead.
That is correct. Advocate. Hold on just a second. contest, Texas 4, 60 seconds.
Time.
This contest is denied. We have a timeout. Louisiana 1, 60 seconds.
There we go.
Time.
All right, time has been called. Question 13 is a quotation question worth 30 points. Question, quote verse 2 of Acts chapter.
Red 2.
Interruption.
Of Acts chapter 3. And a certain man, lame from his mother's womb, was carried, whom they laid daily at the gate of the temple, which is called Beautiful, to ask alms of them that entered into the temple.
That is correct. Question 14 is a four-part question worth 30 points. Question, as recorded in Acts chapter 9, verse 24, what was known of whom, and they watched what when?
Red 2.
But their laying await was not of Saul, and they watched the gates day and night to kill him.
That is correct. And question 15. It's a two-part cross-reference question worth 30 points. Question, which verse of study contains the phrase, they were all afraid, and which verse contains the phrase, he was afraid?
Time.
And this quiz is closed, and Louisiana 1 is now undefeated champion in round 1. Let's go Bulldogs.
Yeah, we're breaking for lunch. That was it. Alden?
Y'all wave it past me. Wave it past me. I did.
Yes, it is.
We love you, Pastor.
All right, the results of the last quiz. The second place team was Texas 4. The winning team was Louisiana 1. We have a tie. We have a tie for our second highest scoring individuals with 50 points each was Ava and Silas. Give Ava and Silas. And Silas, where's Silas?
Big Silas. There's two of them.
Silas Freeman. And our high scoring individual receiving a silver medal this evening in Louisiana.